A big shout out to all the Year 9 girls at Monte St. Angelo. I'm so sorry that I can't be there to speak to you in person because of COVID-19, but we didn't want you to miss out on this presentation. I've been speaking to the girls at Monte for 14 years, and so I'm really excited to be able to deliver this to you online. There are 3 parts of it. I've included plenty of bonus material in here on this landing page for you to access later. But get a notepad, get a pen, sit down and enjoy. I want to first of all start out by telling you a little bit about myself and who I am. I actually grew up in Queensland, and about 20 years ago moved to Sydney to expand my company into New South Wales and now throughout the world. But when I was growing up in Queensland, when I was in year 12 in my senior year in high school, I was actually the fastest in Queensland for the 100, 200 and 400 metre sprint events. I qualified for the World Juniors and pretty much had my sights set up on the up-and-coming Commonwealth Games and Olympic teams. But towards the end of high school, towards the end of my year 12, I actually got hit by an incurable disease called ulcerative colitis, which is very similar to Crohn's disease. The doctors put me on a disability pension and told me I'd never be able to work again, let alone run. So I lived like that, shut up at home for 5 years. I weighed a measly 55 kilos. I was taking 16 tablets a day, and I was suffering with pain 24/7. And I gotta tell you, I kind of spiraled into this place where I was like borderline depression. Why? Because not too many people tell you what to do when your dreams actually don't come true. So I lived like this, shut up at home for 5 years. And then at 22, how it can only be best described as one of those defining moments. I'm sitting at home feeling sorry for myself when a friend of mine knocks on my door and he hands me a book. The book is called Long Walk to Freedom. It's the autobiography of Nelson Mandela. I was so inspired by Mandela's story to see a young black man spend 27 years in prison and then to become the president of his nation. I thought, hey, maybe I could try to do something with my life, because I felt like my life was in some sort of prison. Not a physical one, but an emotional one. I got so inspired by his story that for the first time in 5 years, I actually started to dream again. I grabbed a piece of paper, grabbed a pen, started to write down some goals and dreams. Now, many of the goals I wrote down at the time seemed completely unrealistic, but I literally let my mind run wild. One of the goals I wrote down was I thought if I could do anything with my life, the one thing I love to do is I love to make a difference. I thought if Mandela made a difference in his nation, then I want to make a difference in the small city that I was living at the time. And I thought the best way for me to do that was actually build a youth centre for young people. Now the only problem with this goal was that I had no money. In fact, all I had in my pocket at that time was like $2. It was all that was left over from the disability pension that I was on at that time. But I wasn't going to let that stop me, because Norman Vincent Peale said this. He said, empty pockets never held anyone back. Only empty heads and empty hearts can actually do that. So I took the $2 that I had in my pocket, I hopped in my mum's beat up little car, and I drove around my city looking for a place where I could actually build a youth centre. And I located in this industrial area this massive abandoned warehouse. It was huge. There was a big sign out the front saying for rent. I got in touch with the owners of this warehouse and I asked them, oh, what would a place like this cost to rent out? I'd love to turn into a youth centre. They said, oh, we can rent out to you, no problems. It'll just cost you $1,500 a week. Now, there was no way in the world that I was ever going to come up with that sort of money. So it seemed just hopeless. So I went back home and I just began to ponder and reflect. And I came across this really, really crazy idea. I thought, since this warehouse is just sitting there abandoned and has been for like 2 years, why don't I just go and ask the owners of this warehouse if they'll just give it to me for free? Now listen, I know this sounds stupid. I know this sounds ridiculous. I know this sounds insane. But at the time, I kind of figured, well, I've got nothing to lose. So I rang up the owners of this large facility and I asked them, I said, listen, I don't have any money. I want to build a youth center. This warehouse that you've got is sitting there, it's vacant. Would you be prepared to just give it to me for free? I expected them to laugh at me, but to my utter surprise, they actually said yes. They said, we'll give it to you for free for 6 months because we love your enthusiasm and we love your passion. But after 6 months, we want you to come back to us, tell us what you're up to, and we'll decide where we go from there. How's that sound? That sounds great. They threw me the keys. I was so excited. I drove straight down to the warehouse. When I got down there, I unlocked it all. I was immediately disheartened again. Because now all I'm left with is this massive tin shed, and I still don't have any money to put anything in there. But I heard somewhere that if you write to big companies will donate money to good causes. So I sent off 114 letters seeking sponsorship to every big company I can think of. You know, like Nike, Adidas, Billabong, Quicksilver, Lonsdale, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. I sent off all these proposals that I'm just sitting at home expecting them to just send me money in the mail. Anyway, within 3 weeks of sending off 114 requests for sponsorship, I actually get back 114 replies. And every single one of those replies was a no. But I didn't give up, because in my 115th proposal, a guy said yes and handed me $100. That was like my start. So I went down to Kmart. You know those basketball hoops you get at Kmart with the plastic backboards and the tin rims? I went and bought one of them. There was a steel pole in the middle of this warehouse. I bolted it to this steel pole. Now all I have is 4 walls, concrete floor, pole in the middle, basketball hoop, and that's my youth center. Anyway, I'm thinking writing proposals is going to take me far too long to get this place up and running. I need to come up with some more ideas to try and raise money. And because R&B and hip hop were kind of like really big in my area, and I kind of figured myself as a little bit of a DJ, I thought, why don't I run a big dance party? You know, like a big youth event to raise money? Only problem is I didn't have any money to put the dance party on, but I did do accounting in high school. And one thing I learned about an accountant is you can put stuff on credit. So I went to my local printer, you know, like your local quick copy center. So listen, I don't have any money, but I want to organize this big youth event. Would you be willing to print for me all these posters, all these flyers, and give me a 30-day account, and I promise I'll pay you back in 30 days? They agreed. I then went crazy and I had staging, trusses, lights, DJs, sound equipment, hired all this stuff, convinced them all to give me 30 days to pay them back. Then I came home and did the budget. Should have done the budget first. Came home, did the budget, worked out that I needed a minimum of 250 students just to pay back all these bills. I didn't know if this was even possible. I mean, as you can see, I was so young. This is my first ever event. I didn't have anybody to actually turn up. By the way, this is before the days of social media. We could just kind of post something for your friends to like it, maybe share it. I had to physically go and put these posts up in every storefront, then wait to see if anybody actually turn up. Anyway, cut a long story short, I actually didn't get 250 people to my first event. I ended up getting 2,500, which kind of freaked me out because I'd actually organized for my mum to be in the canteen, for my sister to be on the door, for my brother to help out security. 4 of us, 2,500 young people. I'm bringing police, fire brigade, ambulance, security, trying to get this moment of control. And the next day in the local newspapers, I get front page, full color photos. The article reads like this: young guy in a disability pension stages the largest ever youth event ever seen in the city of Redcliffe, turns the city of Redcliffe upside down. Whole bunch of other media attention starts to occur. Hey, again, to cut a long story short, the week after the dance party, I get a letter in the mail from a local businessman. This letter reads like this: Dear Mr. Therein, congratulations on the success of your youth event. I'm so impressed to see a young man strive to make a difference and build a house of hope for young people in the local community. Please accept this small contribution on behalf of my company towards your cause. Stapled to his letter is a check for $10,000 towards the youth centre. Sony PlayStation give me 4 68cm TVs, 4 Sony PlayStations and games every single week. Someone else I don't see brand new pool tables, brand new table tennis tables, brand new computers, at that time set up like an internet cafe. I get a government grant for $50,000 to kick off a gym. Had over 800 members in my gym, basketball courts, pool tables, a sound lounge. I'm now raising so much money that I start a food program to help disadvantaged families. In 5 years, that food program distributes over 20,000 food parcels. After starting a youth centre with nothing more than like $2 in my pocket, and a food program gave over 20,000 food parcels, I actually won Young Australian of the Year in 1998 for Queensland Community Service. And then schools like yours, companies, football teams started asking me to come up in and share my story. I'm at a point in my life, I've got to tell you honestly, I feel like I'm living my dream. In terms of high schools alone, I now speak around about 300 high schools around the world every year, averaging about 150 flights, so about 100,000 teenagers. A lot of the big boys schools, big GPS schools in Sydney, get me in especially to work with their first 15 rugby teams, coaching on mental toughness and discipline. I had a school in Melbourne recently fly me down for 1 hour just to work with 8 of their rowers before a major regatta they had coming up. I'll have athletic squads, swimming squads, prefect committees, leadership groups, gridiron teams in America, rugby academies in New Zealand, equestrian teams in Victoria. The National Rugby League, the NRL, they had hired me in for 5 years to run a program with all 16 of their teams based upon one of my books called Men of Honour, trying to change a culture in the next 5 years. At this point in my life, I've got to tell you honestly, I feel like I'm living my dream. But if you get back to when I was 22, when I was 22, I actually weighed 55 kilos. I was taking 16 tablets a day and I was suffering with pain 24/7. Over the incredibly short period of time that I have with you here online, I'm going to aim to give you as many tools and strategies that you can use to revolutionize any area of your life. Now listen very carefully before I begin. Don't miss out on this. I get lots of emails from students telling me how this program has dramatically impacted their life. They've made European soccer teams, college basketball teams, academic results are sort from here to here, scholarships like at NIDA and at Whopper. Let me give you one quick testimonial from a young girl who wrote to me like 8 years ago. She said this, said 8 years ago in 2011, you came to my school Limited Intensive Workshop for our retreat. At that time, my life was stood at a dangerous crossroad, but through your workshop and your words, you inspired me to choose hope. You unlocked something in me that day, one I'll never forget. And 7 years on, my life has completely changed. I went from being a high school dropout with severe mental illness to having the ability to travel the world and transform the lives of women and girls. At 23 years of age, I've worked with the United Nations, consulted with President Obama, and organised the largest legal girls' political takeover in the world. Somehow I managed to become a woman of the future, join the Queen of England by becoming a Queen's young leader. The reason I'm writing to actually say thank you. Like I said, I get lots of emails from that. There's thousands of them on our website you can actually go and check out later. You know the ones I love the most are these ones. This girl writes to me, I actually got permission for the relation to my first book. She says this: earlier this year, I had a very severe episode of depression, in which I was twice admitted to hospital. While staying there, my dad came and gave me a book. At the time, I was having a lot of difficulty with concentration and accepted only out of politeness. When I began to read it, I actually just couldn't put it down. I finished reading in a couple of days, a new realization, I had a bright and hopeful future. Then she says this, after reading the book, I met a girl in my ward. We started having a chat. She told me a deep desire to end her life. She's convinced she's going to live past 16. I told her about your book and how much it impacted me, and I offered it to her that night. She said she didn't walk down till morning. Next time when I saw her, she put her arms around me. So that book just saved my life. Listen, I know this session works, and it's probably going to impact you in ways you weren't really expecting when you began to watch this video online. So stay tuned. I've broken it up into 3 lessons. This was just the introduction to give you a little bit of information about my background. We're going to get back to it in the next lesson. Hope you guys can all join us. See you soon.